Hi there, this is Matt with State of Flex here with a review for AVP, Alien vs. Predator. And it is with deep, unbridled shame that I say I like this movie for what it is. You know, I don't necessarily get the vitriolic hate that this movie has. Sure, it's not as good as the highs of the Alien or Predator franchises, but it's also certainly not as low as the lowest points of either the Alien or Predator franchises, even to the point of its release. So, I don't necessarily get it. Now, there are hardcore criticisms that I'm going to lay at this film, but let's start with the positives, because I am giving this a mildly positive review. The film is kind of uniquely structured in that it borrows heavily from elements of The Thing from Another World, the original 50s film, not the John Carpenter one. And its structure within that narrative and incorporating the alien and the predator into it along with the human characters works relatively well. Yeah, sure, you recognize that the human characters are essentially just fodder, but you're not there to see the human characters so much. You're there for the alien and the predator. The two things that work absolutely the best in this are the action is pretty fantastic, and the utilization of the alien and the predator when they are fighting each other and seeing their individual skill sets is really kind of neat. And it feels very much like it did when I collected the Kenner toys of the Alien and Predator and had them battle each other and stuff like that. It captured that energy and whatnot that was really engaging. The other thing that this movie has, and pretty much the unsung thing that this has going for it, is it has incredible art direction. The art direction in this film is really fascinating. The set designs, all that stuff, are layered with Easter eggs, but even without the Easter eggs, it makes for a visually interesting film the entire way through. And Paul W. Anderson is kind of dismissed by a lot of cinephiles, and I get it. Largely his movies are pretty weak. However, his two strongest films, which is this and the much stronger Mortal Kombat, which is a film that I actually do really quite like and hold a lot of reverence for, have excellent sets, photographed very well, and he knows how to make visually interesting shots. Now, a lot of his background comes from video games. He's probably the foremost director immersed in video game culture today, which is why he's the guy that everybody goes to when they want to make a really shitty video game movie. But if I were to lament one major criticism towards this, it would be that it feels kind of video gamey with various boss battles. Another thing that you could lament at this film is the characters are kind of weak, and coming off of two Predator films prior to this one, where you have relatively well-drawn characters, especially in that first Predator movie, but even the second one, the characters are drawn relatively well with the Gary Busey character and the Danny Glover character, a couple of the other ones. But then the Alien franchise is one where, like, it's argued that the first Alien film is a character study. I don't necessarily feel that, but you are drawn to those characters, mainly because you like the actors so much. Aliens has firm archetypal characters, but very firm ones that you care about. Alien 3 has a smattering of good characters, of the ones you could tell apart from each other. And even Alien Resurrection, I think a lot of the criticisms you can hurl at that film don't stem from character. Characters are pretty well drawn and pretty strong relatively across the board. Whereas this film is filled with far too many characters. I would have whittled this character base down to 8 maybe, like 8 max. I get that you need to populate the film with a lot of aliens, and in order to do that, you have to have them face hugged and then the chest burst, but you really only can distinctly pick out 4 of these characters. One is the main character, who I'll touch on in a minute. 2 is the Italian guy, purely because he's the Italian guy and it came out the year after Love Actually, and I believe it's the same dude from Love Actually that, like, Laura Linney was kind of hitting on. The guy from the UK that's so concerned about his, documenting his trip for his children, his sons, and you really invested in that relationship. The only character in this movie that you give a shit about is him, and they draw him out well so that you care about it when he dies. And then last would be Lance Henriksen's Charles Bishop Weyland, which felt like a retcon from Alien 3. We'll talk about the retcons in a second. But that's mostly somebody you care about because you're familiar with who he is, right? The bishop of it all. And besides those 4, everybody's interchangeable. Like, you have no idea who any of these people are, and they try to give everybody just like a one line to get you invested in them so you care when they die, like the French girl with the spiky hair, who's not French in this, she's just a French actress, and the guy from the first Resident Evil movie that gets diced into cubes. But, like, they don't have any character whatsoever, and they just are there. They are pure fodder. And I think that that is disappointing coming from both the franchises that went lengths to establish characters that you care about when they die. Now, as I've just dismissed a lot of these characters, let's go back and rebuild one up. The main character of this, played by Sanaa Lathan, is pretty good. I like her character. She is well drawn, she is firmly conceptual, and you understand who she is and what makes her tick. She's the only genuinely good character in this film. Along with that, she is a kind of parallel to a character that is in the comics, that sort of adopts the Predator lifestyle, so much so that she, in the comics, got to wear the Predator mask. It was the human that became the, are they Yuchas? I can't remember. It's been years since I've read those comics. But she adopted the way of the Predator, the hunter. And they adapt that for this movie, and that's pretty cool that that was in there for fans. They do it in its own way, and clearly we're setting up for a sequel that would have continued on that character's trajectory, which didn't really happen. We'll get there. But yeah, I like her. She's good. She's a good, interesting character for this movie. Interesting enough character. And I like how she plays off of the Predator that she's petrified of but has reverence for, because it's able to hunt down these things that are pure, terrifying monsters. Nightmare fuel to the max. The look of the alien and the Predator in this are pretty good, especially the alien. All the alien stuff looks great, especially the Queen alien. Some of the imagery, I'll talk about that at the very end of this, is really, really cool. And I like how they kind of tweaked some of the look of the aliens from Alien Resurrection. I liked how they looked in that. They just where they had a little more beef to them, a little more meat and muscle. But I didn't like how gooey they were. They stripped back a lot of the goo in this, which I was all for. The Queen looked friggin' phenomenal. The Predators themselves look pretty good, especially under the mask. I thought it looked pretty solid. The first Predator that gets in the fight with the alien, the suit additions to that Predator looked a little too bulky. And when they went into their handheld melee, that's probably the weakest shot action in the film, but I think it was mostly because the costume was just too big on the actor inside it. That said, that first battle is really cool. It doesn't hurt that I appreciate this movie because I do have a predilection towards the alien over the predator, and this film definitely lands more alien favored than predator. And it's kind of interesting that both this and Freddy vs. Jason, which came out the year before it, the two big versus movies of the mid 2000s that were stuck in development hell since the mid 90s, both favored my favorite character, Freddy, being clearly that's a glorified Nightmare on Elm Street movie with Jason cameoing in it as the secondary lead. This is very much more of an alien movie. There's more of a balance in this than Freddy vs. Jason had, but clearly the alien is being favored throughout the entire film. One alien kills two predators in a single scene. Which is cool, and then it gets that cool scar on its helm. But here's my biggest complaint about the film. I said I like the structure of like borrowing the thing from another world and kind of twirling it to the needs of this movie, but that comes with this, which is if you are going to set your first alien movie on Earth, something that's been teased since 1992 with Alien 3. It's because you want to see the alien on Earth. You want to see it interacting with things around you that you have familiarity with. And what do? They put it on Antarctica, which is the most alien part of our planet that is not unlike just a standard space rock. There's no difference between the photography of Antarctica that there is on LV-426 when you first land there in Ridley Scott's Alien, truthfully. And so I found that disappointing right from the very first go. That was something that rubbed me the wrong way. But I gotta say, the visual effects in this held up shockingly well. I think the big action battles are really, really great. Sure, this film walks back the lore established in both Alien and Predator franchises, predominantly the Alien franchise, with the face-hugging. Like, if you go back to Alien and see how long it took Kane to pop that alien out of his chest, meanwhile in this one it seems to happen in a matter of minutes. Alien 3 had the alien gestating inside of both Newt and then Ripley for days, multiple, like a long stretch of time before that alien burst out of the chest at the end of the theatrical cut of Alien 3. This is just happening like that, and that was something that rubbed me the wrong way as well. But if you ignore some of the lore, you're not there to expand on the lore necessarily. You're there to see these characters fight in video game style, and sure, this could have been a video game, but I enjoyed it for what it was. I think it's very fun. I give this a very soft 3 stars. Part of reviewing a movie is grading the film on what it accomplishes and sets out to do. And I don't think this movie ever set out to be equivocal to either the Alien or Predator franchise. I think what it set out to do was pit these two monsters together in a way that was interesting and visually and ever-changing. And it gave you a landscape that was constantly in motion, like a ticking clock, not unlike the Predator's language that's constantly moving and spinning. And it's not lost on me that this film that's hated, so detested by so many Alien franchise fans, half of those same fans praise Prometheus, which, like, utilizes so much of the first act of this film as the first act of that film. It's shocking how similar they are. And that was a criticism I had of Prometheus then. Rewatching it now for the first time since I've seen Prometheus. I haven't seen this movie since probably like 2008, shortly after AVP 2 came out. It's inexcusable. They absolutely just lifted the plot of this to give their movie thrust, and it's just like, whoa. But anyway, I digress. I think, and I'll probably get a lot of hate for it, but AVP, not a bad movie. 3 stars, it's worth your time. It's a good time. the offenses this film makes are inoffensive compared to some of the things that both films had, both franchises had done prior. So, it's inoffensive stupidity made for a good time, and that's what this movie is. It's a good time. I will probably explore AVPR pretty soon here. This is a movie that I had planned to talk about back when I was doing my Successive Alien reviews, but then I lost access to watch AVP, and I did not want to shell out the money to watch this movie, because I was like, why pay money for something I know I don't like? Not realizing I don't necessarily dislike this movie, so it took a long time, but AVPR I do have access to, so that one will be coming down the pipeline here shortly. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of the movie down below. Feel free to roast the fuck out of me. I get it. I'm in the minority on this one, but for making a big dumb action movie, I think they made a big dumb action movie well. And I did like the scenes, and I think the special effects on it look great when you're going back and seeing the Predators through history. If you're a history fan whatsoever, this movie is absolute bonkers stupid. But tackling in and honing in on the whole ancient aliens of it all, that was captivating audiences in the early to mid 2000s, it was kind of a smart move. I get it, why they went that route. And it was kind of left of center, and I didn't expect it when I saw the movie the first time, and I think that scene holds up pretty well outside of, intellectually I'm beyond that. That said, I keep rambling. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Let me know what you think of the comments down below, and peace.